Hey everyone, so in this video, just wanted to give you guys a quick look into a shoot that I had. It was actually a first for me, but I don't know about you guys. I usually don't take half days just because it's never truly a half day. I usually have to block out my whole day, even for a few hours. And typically they end up going a lot longer, so it's hard to book, another shoot on top of a half day. So I usually tend to pass on those, but this was a first for me where I actually had 2 half-day shoots aligned perfectly, one in the morning and then one in kind of the later part of the day to make a full day. And this is very rare that it actually happens like this. I maybe had 1 or 2 other shoots that kind of lined up, but this one lined up perfect. So the first client was a local church in Little Rock. I was helping as kind of a gaffer and grip for the day. So I was getting everything prepped. They were wanting to film outside during like a sunrise kind of vibe. So it was 30, 60-second teleprompted scripts outside during the sunrise. So we knew it was going to be a little tricky filming outside. So that's why they hired me to come in with some additional equipment to make it consistent. So we had planned to set up an 8x8 as kind of coverage for the sun. And as the sun was rising, we would have to raise this 8x8, a few times throughout the course of filming. We didn't have to chase it too much. That's the one good thing about the 8x8 is it blocks quite a bit. I would have liked to have set up like a 12x12, but that's just a little bit too much for me on my own. I would like to usually have a bigger crew to handle 12x12 outside. So we opted for an 8x8, which was totally fine. It worked perfectly for a single talking head clip. And the 8x8 kind of acted as a very soft kicker light, hair light. And then as for key light, we used a 1200 HMI par, just punching through a 4x4 artificial silk flag that we had set up. And this was just giving a little bit of a fill light so we can keep a consistent look just in case the sun did start to dip or, clouds or anything like that. We still had good exposure on talent. But yeah, as far as camera, I believe they were using a Sony A7S III. And we also had some negative fill just to add a little bit more contrast to the face since we're filming outside. I always like to add a little bit of negative fill. But yeah, this was a very simple shoot and I think it turned out great. Here's a look at some of the footage. We shot everything wide open. I believe we were at 1.8 or something along those lines. And then we filmed for about an hour or 2 and then we wrapped and I headed home for a few hours before having to be on the next location. So the next shoot was at 1 p.m. and it was more event coverage and a little bit of talking head interviews here and there. Very run and gun. Didn't have a whole lot of time to set up, but the typical conference B-roll. Everything was filmed on my Sony FX3. The client wanted S-Cinetone for delivery, and I just tried to, liven up the B-roll as much as possible. It's always kind of hard with event coverage and, unless you're in a really, really cool location, everything tends to look a little bland. So I was trying to get creative with angles and just to give them something to work with. And we had a few different locations going on in the same building. There were a couple of smaller breakout rooms and then a larger conference room. So just kind of bouncing back and forth, getting as much B-roll as possible. And then we ended with an interview, and this was a totally separate client. We filmed from about 1 to maybe 4 or 5-ish. And then we ended with an interview at the very end. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I would honestly take more half-day jobs if I could get them to line up like this perfectly, but they never do. And in my experience, a lot of the half days usually end up turning into full days anyways, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. And I have a couple of shoots coming up next week, so I definitely plan on making some more vlogs. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do that. And I'll see you guys in the next one.